So I haven't been making many news videos lately because I'm in hospital, recovery stuff. But now that I'm starting to feel better, I'm kind of getting back in tune about what's been going on. I saw some stuff happen over the past week. Whatever, that's in the past. We kind of got to move forward to the future now. I know that Xbox has a presentation happening today by the time you're watching this video. I mean, it seems fine. You know, 4 games. We already know what the 4 games are. ESO, Minecraft Legends, Forza Motorsports 8, and of course, good old Redfall. And it just seems like, you know, there's not going to be any surprises here. Obviously, we'll probably get some release dates, I would assume, for Forza and Redfall. But beyond that, you know, they've already said there's not going to be anything else there. So I don't know why they need a 40-minute presentation for it. But if it catches my interest, I'll make a video on it. Don't look at my gross arm. I'm trying to get the bandage residue off, but I don't want to hit it too much because the bruising is still there. Just don't look at it. Don't look at it. But I want to talk today about good old Nintendo, because a report came out a couple days ago, and it's just, it's so bizarre to me. It's very baffling, and I want to read this over with you guys and then give you guys my thoughts and impressions on it, and then get your guys' thoughts and impressions on it, because I really feel like, honestly, there's only 3 ways that this can go. There's only 3 ways that any of this makes sense, and I feel like some of the ways make more sense than some of the other ways. So Nintendo is, of course, entering yet another year of the Nintendo Switch. It originally came out in 2017. Now it's 2023. It's something that you feel like it would be hitting, like you know, it's already hit its apex. It's starting to go on its way down. Obviously, we have a game like Tears of the Kingdom coming out, which could be a swan song for the system, but it doesn't seem like any of that is actually the case, because whereas most video game manufacturers, as consoles continue to sell and as time goes on, they decrease the production of those consoles, Nintendo seems to be doing the opposite. So this is an article from Bloomberg that went up a couple days ago. Nintendo plans to boost Switch output to meet resilient demand. As chip shortages ebb, company anticipates demand rebound. Zelda-themed Switch is a possibility this year, analyst says. Now this article, like I said, it went up a couple days ago, but it's done by Mochizuki, who of course is the guy behind the whole Nintendo Switch Pro thing that ended up never happening. So I guess keep it within a grain of salt, but you know, what he's saying here seems to be pretty spot on, and I think it really paints an interesting picture. So Nintendo plans to increase production of its 6-year-old Switch console in the coming fiscal year after shipping roughly 21 million Switch consoles in the year ending March, according to people familiar with the matter. So basically they just say some stuff here, but now it's convinced it can make more, and the demand remains strong, and the people asked to not be named because these discussions aren't public. The move to increase output is unexpected measure at such a late stage in a console's life cycle. I mean, that's pretty much what we just said. That's what makes this very peculiar. Nintendo has told suppliers and assembly partners it intends to turn out more Switch units in the fiscal year starting April, but has not yet communicated a precise target, the people said. It may revise down its plans later in the year if demand underwhelms. Analyst expectations are for sales to diminish. However, Nintendo's plan suggests it will see sustained demand for at least another year. The console, whose price starts at $199.99, has been hampered more by supply issues than any demand slump Nintendo executives have said. And then we have a bit of a quote here. Sales in the recent holiday season were not that strong even with improved supply. People will soon start speculating about next generation hardware and are likely to refrain from buying the old system. A slowdown in Switch sales momentum is unavoidable. A Nintendo spokesperson declined to comment. So basically, what this is all saying is that Nintendo is going to increase production of the Switch for this upcoming year, and I don't understand why. I don't understand why. Even if we could sit here, you guys know my position on this. I love the Switch. I think it's a really good system. It has a great library of games. I want better performance out of it. I want something like a Switch Pro, a Switch successor, something else. The system has been out for 6 years. Usually when we hit the 6-year mark, we start looking towards the future of new hardware. It's just the way that things are. It's just the way that things usually go. But I think the more important thing here is that demand starts to decline after a while. And we've seen this just looking at various marketplaces. You know, I understand that Japan, there was a bit of a shortage for the Switch with the whole Pokemon situation. I'll take an L on that. That evidently was a real thing, but it wasn't a sustainable demand. It wasn't a sustainable sort of, you know, supply and demand issue. It lasted about a week. When you look at the United States of America, which is Nintendo Switch's largest market in terms of everything, system sales, game sales, software, accessory sales, the United States is the #1 market for the Switch. I don't think we can sit here and, say, oh, there's been a problem getting your hands on one of these systems. Go to your local Walmart, go to your local Target, go to your GameStop, go onto Amazon, GameStop's website. Everyone has had the Switch in stock. We've done videos talking about this last year where it was like, oh, there's shortages. And it's like, maybe in certain regions there are shortages, but in your main regions, it doesn't seem like that's actually been the case. It's been more of an isolated thing more than a widespread thing. You obviously have the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X starting to, get more so into their groove. We have some Xbox games coming out this year, finally, for the Xbox Series X. We, of course, have the PlayStation 5 with big games like Spider-Man 2. So I'm not quite sure, because you end up, we've already sold, what, like 120 million of these Switch systems. You get to a point where it's just like, nobody's going to buy them anymore because everyone that already wanted one already has one. But there's pretty much 3 different trains of thought that I have with this as far as how Nintendo is justifying this, how Nintendo is justifying a increase in production of these systems when in most markets we haven't seen any sort of shortage, even though that's what Nintendo is saying. The first thing would be a reliance on software. Now, obviously, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is coming out this year. It's going to be a large selling title for the Nintendo Switch. I mean, I expect it to do pretty impressive numbers. Will it hit the mountain peak that Breath of the Wild hit originally on the Switch? Who's to say? That was kind of a huge anomaly, I think, for Nintendo, but I do think Tears of the Kingdom is going to put down impressive numbers. We've already talked about and made a video about an alleged Nintendo Switch OLED variant for Tears of the Kingdom. We saw some pictures of it. Supposedly, I think it's definitely something that's going to be real. Would that, spurn on enough interest, though? Are new people going to be picking up a Switch to play this game, or do they already have a Switch? And maybe the collector will get this Switch variant, but it's not going to light the world on fire. I mean, who's really to say? In my opinion, I don't think it would be enough to warrant an increase in production of substantial amount, but they could be banking on something like that. The second avenue is the fact that, there could be a potential price drop for the system in 2023 as far as, all the systems are concerned. Right now, the Nintendo Switch Lite is $200. The main Switch, the standard Switch is $300. The Switch OLED is $350. This is older technology. Nintendo has always been making a profit on the sales of these. So at some point in time, they could lower the price, and obviously the production cost of the system themselves has also go down, which could help spurn on more people and more people interested in the system, maybe even as a secondary system or something like that, so that people will want to get involved once again. Maybe they had a Switch before, but they sold it, but now that they see a new price point for the system that's a lot cheaper, I think there's a bunch of different things that you can do with that and the price point of the system itself to get people who maybe have just been passing on it, maybe just play primarily on a PlayStation or a PC or something like that, maybe getting them interested in the system now that it doesn't cost quite as much. And then there's the third option here. The third option is the one that I think a lot of people wanted there to be, but as time goes on, I just don't think it's going to happen. And that would, of course, be a system variant. We have seen system variants for a lot of Nintendo handhelds. The Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, those two systems, to me, they're very different systems. There are games that only run on the Game Boy Color, yet Nintendo classifies them together in terms of sales. The Nintendo DS, how many variants of the Nintendo DS were there with the DS Lite, the DSi, the Game Boy? You had the Game Boy Advance, you had the Game Boy Advance SP, you had the Game Boy Micro, the 3DS, the 2DS, all that stuff were variants, but it was all under one umbrella. All Game Boys, as far as Game Boy and Game Boy Color were concerned, were classified as Game Boys. Game Boy Advance were all, one system, whether it was the unbacklit one, the frontlit one, or the backlit one, or the Micro. They were all Game Boy Advances. DS, DSi, DS Lite, all were Nintendo DSs, so on and so forth. So a refresh of a system makes sense for this thing. People wanted the newer Nintendo DS system. I remember when the DSi came out, and the DS Lite came out, like, I ended up upgrading my Nintendo DS both times because I played it so much, and I was like, well, I want the best experience possible. And obviously the DS Lite was nice, it had a better screen, and then the DSi had features that was not found on the DS Lite. Same thing with the 3DS. When the new 3DS came out, I went out and got it day one with Xenoblade Chronicles because I was like, this is awesome. It's a bit more powerful. It's going to run some games better. So I was the consumer base that a lot of people feel like Nintendo kind of doesn't pay attention to, I guess, because they don't seem to think that people will buy multiple copies of their systems and upgrade their systems to other things, because they haven't really done that in terms of home consoles. The home consoles has always been, you know, the NES to the NES top loader, the Super Nintendo to the Super Nintendo Mini. They've always been systems that were taking away features, you know, when it comes to home consoles. Look at the Wii, and then the black Wii system that was half the price but didn't have all the features on it. That's kind of how Nintendo has always done home consoles. But handhelds, they've always done them completely, you know, 180. They've always increased things and they've added things and they made them better. Whereas consoles, it was about cutting the price of it. I guess there is a fourth option though. And that fourth option would be Nintendo just thinks the system's gonna sell on its own. It doesn't need anything else. You know, the software will sell it enough. It doesn't need system variants or a price point cut or a different system variant. And man, I just don't know. I just don't know, because, you know, even you look year over year, the system sales are going down, and that's okay. I'm not saying the system's a failure. I'm not saying the system is falling off a cliff. I don't hate Nintendo or anything like that, but some people just can't accept the fact that things are slowing down. That's fine. That's natural. It's a part of life. But when you're trying to counteract that by saying, oh no, things aren't slowing down, we had some production issues, we're going to actually sell more systems this year than we did last year, it's kind of like, well, based on what? Like, based on what? I mean, obviously these companies have internal data, but you know, the thing about internal data is it's not always correct, because if it was, then every company ever would be successful. You know, it's like a focus testing group. Companies do focus testing for stuff. And if that was the case, you know, every product ever would be successful. There's different things that you know, are variables within this. There's different things that can happen that will change up things as far as your projected outlook is concerned. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this, though. Do you think my 3-piece plan, I guess it goes like boom, 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 is a good idea? Or do you see, you know, maybe something more along the lines of a fourth idea where they just think it's going to do better based on, I'm not quite sure. Let me know what you think of everything in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button. We are on the road to 500,000 subscribers. Hopefully we hit it this year. That would be really cool. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video.